Rain hammered the tarmac outside Joint Task Facility Ravenwood like fists of cold metal, slicing sideways under the gusts of wind. Emily Rourke's boots splashed through puddles as she sprinted toward the convoy that had gone radio silent 15 minutes ago. Each step felt like running against an invisible wall. Each heartbeat thumped in her ears, drowning out the storm. Her hands clutched the emergency medical kit, drenched and heavy, while the adrenaline coursed through her veins like electricity. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't trained for field rescues. She was an analyst, a mind behind a desk, a numbers and data person, not a soldier, not a rescuer. But the live drone feed told a story that her sense of duty refused to ignore. A four-star general, Camden, the man who coordinated the most sensitive operations in the U.S. military, lay pinned in a crushed Humvee, his convoy ambushed, trapped under the shadow of 1,000 unseen threats. Emily's breaths came sharp and rapid. She had calculated the odds of survival based on terrain, enemy positions, and proximity of support. The math screamed one thing: the general wouldn't last another 10 minutes, and there was only one person who could act herself. The Humvee lay twisted in the mud, smoke curling like ghostly fingers into the stormy night. Emily could hear the sounds of gunfire in the distance, muffled by the downpour. Soldiers scrambled behind barriers, shouting, firing, ducking. Amid the chaos, the general's voice came, rough and pained, cutting through the calm chatter. "Emily, if you're there, get me out fast." The radio was silent. Protocols demanded she wait, call for authorization, let the proper teams handle it. But protocol would get him killed. Emily's fingers trembled as she keyed the first aid kit open, her eyes scanning the mangled metal, the chaos, the rain-blurred uniforms. She spotted the wound. Bullet entry near the lower abdomen. Blood slicked the mud. Every second counted. Emily jumped into the Humvee, ignoring the shouts of nearby soldiers. She placed her hands on Camden's body, pressing hard where the wound throbbed. His breathing was ragged, uneven, each exhale a battle against the storm's chill and the pain consuming him. "You're not leaving me here," she whispered, voice firm, soaked in determination. She pressed her hands harder, wrapping her jacket around him to slow the bleeding. The drone feed in her mind kept flashing. The ambush had been too precise, coordinated. This wasn't random. Someone wanted him gone. And if they succeeded, it would tip the balance of operations in an invisible war most Americans never knew existed. A shadow loomed. A tall figure, sharp-shouldered, a helmet dripping with rain. Her boss, Director Harrington, appeared at the edge of the scene, storm clouds reflecting off his polished badge. His face twisted in fury. "Rourke, what the hell are you doing?" he bellowed. The sound was thunderous, clashing with the storm's own roar. "I'm saving him," Emily said, not looking away from Camden. Her hands worked in precise, desperate movements, pressing the wound, adjusting his posture to keep him breathing. "Not your call. Step back now." Harrington's voice carried the authority of someone who had never been disobeyed. Emily's jaw tightened. She glanced at him once, calculating the risks. Harrington had more guns, more personnel, more power. He could remove her from the scene in seconds, but power didn't stop bullets. "He's dying," she shouted over the rain, hands slick with blood. "I can't wait for your authorization." Harrington's lips curled, an expression that was more scorn than concern. "You have no clearance. You've violated every protocol in this facility. You'll regret this decision." Emily ignored him. She couldn't argue with him, couldn't reason with someone whose priorities valued procedure over life. Her fingers moved deftly, wrapping a makeshift tourniquet, applying pressure, checking pulse. Camden's eyes fluttered open, pain evident but recognition dawning. "Rourke, you came," he rasped, voice strained, pain cutting through. "Yes, sir. I'm not leaving," she said. Her own chest heaved, the adrenaline spike masking exhaustion. Every instinct screamed, "Keep moving, keep breathing, keep him alive." Harrington strode closer, anger radiating from every line of his body. "You've crossed a line. You're done here. Consider yourself fired." Emily froze. For a moment everything slowed. The storm became a muted roar in her ears. Fired, over saving a man's life. The absurdity collided with her fear, but she didn't flinch. "I saved his life," she said, voice low but unwavering, eyes locked on Harrington. "And I'd do it again." He leaned closer, rain dripping from his brim, his voice a dagger of authority and malice. "Not your decision to make. And when this general wakes up, he'll never even know you were involved." The stretcher team arrived at that moment, carrying medical supplies, eyes wide at the sight of Emily pressed against the general, soaked and bloody. They moved efficiently, but she held her position just long enough to stabilize Camden's condition. His pulse was fragile, shallow, but alive. Harrington snatched her badge from her chest, the cold metal cutting through the wet fabric of her jacket. "Your history, Rourke. This ends now." Emily's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the realization that her act of courage had painted a target on her back. She had broken the rules, saved a general, and now she was an enemy in her own agency. As the stretcher moved away, Emily watched Harrington's figure fade into the storm. Something about his demeanor didn't sit right. There was a calculation there, a hidden motive she couldn't yet grasp. His fury was real, yes, but the edge of panic, the barely contained fear behind his eyes, that was new. She had saved a life, but in doing so she had stepped into a web she could not see, a tangle of politics, power, and secrecy that extended far beyond her understanding. She had crossed a line, and she knew it, not just for her career, but for her very survival. The storm hammered on, relentless and unyielding, matching the storm of doubt and adrenaline inside her. Every instinct screamed for action, yet Emily remained rooted in place, watching the stretcher disappear into the shadowed facility. She had made her choice. She had saved Camden. But as the rain poured harder and the night grew darker, a chilling thought crept in. Her actions had set something in motion, something bigger than she could anticipate, something that might not stop at firing her. The wind howled like a warning. Emily's hands were bloodied, her clothes soaked, and yet her mind raced with a single burning question: what comes next? And in the shadows, Harrington's eyes flickered with something more than anger. There was recognition, calculation, fear. Emily didn't know it yet, but the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm that had just begun, inside Ravenwood and inside her own life. She took a deep breath, water dripping from her hair, rain washing over her like a baptism of chaos, and whispered to herself, "I saved him, and now I'm going to find out why that makes me dangerous." As the wind tore at her coat, a distant thrum of rotors echoed faintly in the storm. She froze. It was faint, almost imperceptible. A Navy helicopter. Why would a Navy helicopter be here, now? Her pulse raced, and in that moment the world felt like it had tilted on its axis. Harrington had fired her, but someone else was coming. And Emily knew instinctively, this night wasn't over. The storm raged on, and the first threads of a far larger conspiracy began to unravel around her. And she was right in the middle of it. The rain didn't stop. It poured over Ravenwood like the sky itself was punishing the world for what had just happened. Emily Rourke's soaked jacket clung to her, heavy and cold, while her hands shook, not from the storm but from the aftershock of what she had just done. She had saved General Camden's life, and yet she had been stripped of everything that defined her: her badge, her authority, her career. The facility's security had escorted her to the parking lot, their expressions a mixture of discomfort and indifference. One guard avoided her gaze completely, like looking at her would implicate him. The other offered a stiff nod of sympathy, his eyes flicking nervously toward the storm-lashed sky. Emily didn't speak. She had no words for people who measured courage by procedure rather than by results. She reached her car, a nondescript black sedan, the rain forming tiny rivers along the windshield. Her hands trembled as she fumbled for the keys, heart still racing from the adrenaline that refused to settle. The headlights of the facility cast sharp reflections on the wet pavement, illuminating puddles and the flickering orange of security lamps. Everything felt unreal, the surreal mix of relief that the general was alive and despair that she was no longer considered one of them. She slid into the driver's seat, cold seeping into her bones. The storm rattled against the roof and her mind raced, replaying every second of the ambush, the rescue, Harrington's harsh words. Fired, erased. She had saved a life and been punished for it. Her stomach churned with fury. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down, expecting perhaps a text from a friend. Instead, the screen flashed a single, stark message. "They're lying to you." Emily's fingers froze on the steering wheel. Unknown number. No sender, no clue, just 4 words. She frowned, glancing around the empty parking lot. The rain masked the distant hum of traffic and wind, but the sense of being watched prickled at her skin. Before she could respond, headlights split the darkness. A trio of black SUVs roared into the lot, engines growling like predators closing in. Their movements were too coordinated, too deliberate to be random. They weren't heading toward the facility. They were heading toward her. Her pulse spiked. Panic clawed at her chest. She pressed the accelerator, tires squealing on the wet asphalt. The SUVs accelerated behind her, engines roaring, cutting through the storm with predatory precision. Emily had trained for data, not driving at high speeds in hurricane-like conditions, but survival instincts kicked in. She swerved, spun the wheel, ducked low in her seat. Every puddle-slick patch of asphalt was a potential death trap. She dialed 911. No answer. Static. They were too far inside the government system. Calls from her number never went through outside Ravenwood. She tried another number. Same result. She realized with a sickening clarity she was entirely on her own. Then her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time a single line of text. "Do not go home." Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her mind raced. Why? Was it Harrington's operatives? Or someone higher up? Her apartment was 15 minutes away, long enough for them to corner her. Her hands tightened around the wheel. The storm made the night nearly opaque, and yet she could feel the SUV lights crawling closer through the sheets of rain. The first SUV rammed her bumper. Emily fishtailed violently, tires struggling to grip the slick asphalt. She swerved onto the median, narrowly avoiding a signpost, then darted onto the freeway. Trucks loomed like giants, their headlights cutting through the mist. She wove between them, heart hammering, mind calculating angles, distances, exit ramps. Her analytic brain, trained for intelligence operations, now had one goal: survive. A sharp honk behind her. Another SUV had cut into her lane, inches from her front bumper. Emily jerked the wheel, narrowly avoiding collision. Her body shook, her hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Then the memory flashed, Camden's warning. The ambush had been precise, almost surgical. The attackers had known every movement, every contingency. And now it seemed the same unseen hand was tracking her. Her car's radio crackled suddenly. The static was overwhelming, but a voice emerged, calm and deliberate, slicing through the storm. "Emily Rourke, pull over now." Emily froze, gripping the wheel tighter. The voice was Harrington's. It carried a controlled authority she couldn't place. "Who is this?" she shouted over the roar of the storm. The voice continued, unruffled. "A friend of General Camden. If you want to live, you need to listen." Emily's pulse jumped. Camden, alive. She dared a glance at the rearview mirror, SUV lights reflecting ominously off the wet asphalt. The message could be a trap, and yet hope flickered. Is he alive?" she asked, voice trembling. "Barely," the voice said, "and the people who tried to kill him think you know why." Emily's mind spun. "I don't." "You do," the voice interrupted, "even if you don't realize it yet." The words hit her like a thunderclap. Someone wanted her gone. Someone wanted the general silenced. And in saving him, she had just painted a target on her own back. The radio crackled again. "Check your glove compartment." Her hands moved automatically. Inside was a small, secure drive, unfamiliar in both size and weight. She had never seen it before. Panic churned in her stomach. "How did this get here?" she whispered. "You have 1 hour before they take you. Run." The radio went dead. Emily's heart raced as she glanced at the SUVs behind her. Their doors had opened. Figures emerged, moving with precision, rifles slung, scanning for her. She stomped on the accelerator. The wet road made her car fishtail. A sharp curve loomed ahead, but there was no choice. She had to survive. Her mind flashed to the drive in her hand. It could hold the proof. It could hold the secret that put everyone in motion. And it could make her the most dangerous person in the storm. The SUVs followed without hesitation, relentless, engines growling, lights cutting through the darkness like predators stalking prey. Emily's mind was a whirlwind of calculations: distance, speed, timing, escape routes. Her fingers hovered over the glove compartment, then back on the wheel. One wrong move, and she would be another statistic buried in the rain-soaked asphalt. The storm showed no mercy. Rain blurred vision. Wind slammed her doors. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the road in stark white flashes. And yet Emily pushed forward, heartbeat steady, logic sharp, eyes focused on the only goal: survive and protect the secret she now held. At an empty stretch, she spotted a dimly lit 24-hour laundromat, a place where nobody would think to follow her. Her car skidded to a stop in the wet gravel. She didn't wait for the SUVs. She bolted inside, slammed the door behind her, and leaned against it, gasping. Her hands shook violently, her coat plastered to her body, teeth chattering. Outside, the engines idled. They were waiting. Emily crouched behind a row of washing machines, trying to calm her breath. The drive lay in her hands, small and innocuous, yet it contained more than just data. It contained the key to a conspiracy that could shake the entire military hierarchy. She didn't understand it yet, but instinct told her it was dangerous beyond comprehension. Her phone buzzed again, another message. "Trust no one, not even your colleagues." Her heart skipped. She had nowhere safe to go. Harrington had fired her. Every protocol now declared her persona non grata, and someone powerful, was hunting her down. And then above the storm she heard it. A faint thrum, almost imperceptible under the downpour and the SUVs' idling engines. The distant, rhythmic beat of helicopter blades. Emily froze. Her eyes scanned the darkened sky, rain pouring over the glass roof. The sound grew louder, approaching fast. Someone was coming, someone big, someone official. But who? And were they here to save her or finish what the others had started? Her pulse thundered. She gripped the drive, realizing that the night was far from over. The rain had soaked her through, the world outside was hunting her, and yet Emily felt a spark of defiance. She had saved a general's life. She had survived this far, and whatever came next, she was ready. The storm raged. The distant helicopter approached, and Emily Rourke, analyst turned fugitive, braced herself for whatever, or whoever, was about to land in her life. The night had only just begun. Emily's hands were white-knuckled on the wheel, heart hammering like artillery in her chest. The storm had not relented. Instead, it seemed to have grown angrier, lashing sideways, reducing the world to a blur of dark water and neon reflections. Behind her, the black SUVs pressed closer, engines growling, tires slicing through puddles like hunting wolves. Every instinct screamed danger. Every analytic impulse raced to calculate the odds of escape. And every fiber of her being screamed, there was no one to trust. She turned sharply onto a narrow overpass, the wind whipping her hair across her face, rain stinging her eyes. The first SUV rammed her rear bumper, the impact jarring her spine. Emily yelped, yanked the wheel, and the car spun violently. Her tires skidded across wet asphalt, veering dangerously close to the edge. She caught the car just in time, adrenaline screaming through her veins. Her mind raced. The drive she had snatched from the glove compartment weighed heavy in her pocket. Whoever had sent it knew she would need it, but she had no idea why. And whoever was chasing her knew that she had it, which made her a target. Her phone buzzed. A single text appeared. "If you want to live, trust the voice you hear. Trust no one else." Emily's pulse jumped. The voice on the radio earlier had claimed to be a friend of General Camden. Was this them? Was this a warning or a trap? She didn't know, but the timing was too precise, too urgent. The SUVs swerved, one cutting in front of her. She slammed on the brakes, heart in her throat. Her tires spun on the slick surface, but she regained control, swerving to the right shoulder just as another SUV tried to box her in. She realized with horrifying clarity, they weren't just trying to scare her. They wanted her dead. The freeway stretched ahead, slick and deserted except for the massive trucks lumbering through the storm. Emily's analytic mind worked frantically. Speed, trajectory, alternate exits. Every second could be her last. Then the radio crackled again. The calm, authoritative voice returned. "Emily Rourke, turn onto exit 22. Now, no hesitation." Her hands shook on the wheel. "Why should I trust you?" she shouted over the roar of the storm. "Because your life depends on it," the voice said. "You don't have time for doubt. They're tracking your every move." Emily's stomach dropped. The SUVs followed relentlessly, headlights glaring through the sheets of rain. She made a snap decision, taking the exit sharply. Gravel sprayed, her tires skidding on the wet surface. The SUVs followed immediately, engines snarling. As she sped down the narrow road, Emily realized they were driving through the industrial district. Dark warehouses, shipping containers stacked high, the occasional flicker of a faulty neon sign. Perfect terrain for an ambush. Perfect terrain for them to corner her. She needed a plan, but time was collapsing around her like the storm itself. Her foot slammed the accelerator. Around a corner, she spotted a semi-trailer parked diagonally, a gap just wide enough for her car to squeeze through. She hesitated for a heartbeat, calculating the risk. The SUV behind her didn't hesitate. It rammed the trailer with brutal force. The impact spun the vehicle slightly but didn't stop her. She pressed forward, heart racing, tires screaming, and slipped between the trailer and a warehouse wall. She barely caught a glimpse of the driver behind her, a silhouette masked by rain and darkness, but the movement was precise. They were trained. Every attack, every maneuver calculated. Emily ducked behind a stack of shipping crates as the SUVs came to a halt, engines idling. She could hear the officers moving, voices muffled but tense. Rain pelted her like needles, mixing with the sweat and adrenaline dripping down her face. She crouched low, listening. The trucks and crates created a labyrinth of shadows and angles, her heart hammering with every subtle sound. The shifting of boots on wet concrete, the whisper of a weapon being drawn, the metallic click of a safety latch. Emily's mind raced. The drive, the general, Harrington's betrayal, everything aligned into a single, terrifying thought. The ambush wasn't random, and neither was the attack on her. She pressed herself flat against the crates, thinking fast. She needed a distraction, something to buy time. She ripped a fire extinguisher from the wall, pulled the pin, and aimed. A blast of white foam erupted, filling the corridor with choking mist. The silhouettes behind her coughed and shouted. Emily bolted, sprinting between containers, heart hammering, lungs burning, adrenaline a tidal wave through her veins. She could hear boots pounding behind her. The SUV's engines roared to life again, tires skidding as they chased. She rounded a corner and froze. A second voice on the radio crackled unexpectedly, calm, authoritative. "Emily Rourke, the roof. Go to the roof, there's extraction." Extraction, her pulse spiked. Could it be true? Could the Navy actually be coming for her? Her hands trembled as she considered the possibility. The chase was relentless. She couldn't outrun them on the ground. She didn't have the firepower, and she didn't have allies she could trust. She ran toward a warehouse, scaling a fire escape she had never noticed before. The wind tore at her, rain soaking her through. Below, the SUVs slammed into the walls of the industrial yard, their occupants shouting orders, guns raised, searching for the fugitive analyst who had just outmaneuvered trained operatives. Emily climbed higher and higher, muscles burning. The rain-slick metal made each step treacherous. She finally reached the rooftop, chest heaving, fingers raw from gripping the wet railing. Then she heard it, a low, distant whoop-whoop-whoop like some mechanical beast breaking through the storm. The sound grew steadily, and with it, a glimmer of hope, a helicopter. Emily pressed herself against the rooftop ledge, scanning the surrounding buildings. The industrial district stretched out in a maze of metal and shadows, and below, the SUVs had stopped, too cautious to fire without a clear shot. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The helicopter drew closer, its searchlight slicing through the storm, illuminating the rooftop in stark, blinding white. Emily's breath caught. The drive in her hand suddenly felt heavier, charged with all the secrets it carried. The storm, the SUVs, Harrington's betrayal, it all converged in this moment. She had made it this far, but the night was far from over. Whoever had sent the helicopter knew her every move. The rooftop vibrated as the rotor wash hit, rain slamming against her face and soaking her hair. She squinted into the spotlight. The helicopter hovered just above the edge, a rope ladder dropping slowly into the storm. Emily's mind raced. She had a choice: climb into the unknown, trusting someone she had never met, or stay, risking capture and likely death by the unknown forces hunting her. She glanced back at the SUVs. The men were still moving, preparing to scale the building. Time was evaporating fast. Emily's fingers gripped the rope ladder. Her pulse thundered, every nerve alight with fear, adrenaline, and determination. She had survived ambushes, storms, betrayal, but this moment felt like the culmination of everything. The culmination of the storm, the danger, the secrets, the truth she now carried. She took a deep breath, swallowed her fear, and began to climb. Each rung was a battle against wind, rain, and exhaustion. Her muscles screamed, her lungs burned, but the promise of survival and the possibility of uncovering the truth drove her upward. The helicopter swayed violently in the storm, rotor blades slicing the air like knives. She was halfway up when she felt a jolt, a hand grabbing hers from above. A firm grip, steady, controlled. "Emily Rourke," a voice shouted over the roar. "Yes," she gasped, barely audible. "Hold on, we've got you." Her heart leaped. For the first time since Harrington fired her, Emily allowed herself a spark of hope. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone, somehow, knew her, trusted her, and was here to help. But as the helicopter's lights swept over the rooftop, illuminating her pursuers scrambling below, she realized the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm she had just entered. Her world was about to change forever. And as she climbed toward the helicopter, Emily knew one thing with chilling clarity: the chase had just begun. The rooftop whipped around Emily like a twisting storm itself. Rain lashed her face, turning her soaked hair into a tangled curtain. The helicopter hovered above, rotors cutting violently through the night, the thrum of the blades matching the rapid hammer of her heart. Hands raw, fingers white-knuckled, Emily gripped the rope ladder and climbed, fighting exhaustion, wind, and fear. Every step was a battle against gravity, storm, and time. Halfway up, she felt a firm, steady hand grab hers from above. The rope shuddered, and a voice shouted over the chaos. "Emily Rourke." "Yes," she gasped, rain stinging her eyes. "Hold on, we've got you." The hand pulled, strong and certain. Emily's stomach churned as she was hoisted into the cabin. The helicopter swayed violently in the storm, and she collapsed on the floor, drenched, shivering, heart pounding. A medic reached for her. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Emily shook her head, trying to steady her breath. I think so. Who are you?" The rotor blades hummed overhead, cutting the world into chaos and static, but a new sound came over the comms, clear, deliberate, calm. "Emily Rourke, you are not safe. They're coming for you." Emily froze. The voice was familiar. The one from the radio, the calm, commanding voice that had guided her through impossible choices. "Who are you?" she shouted into the wind, but the comms cut through with urgency. "A friend of General Camden. His life is in your hands, and now yours too." Emily's pulse quickened. Her mind was spinning. Camden alive, yes, but she had no way to confirm anything. The storm outside felt smaller than the chaos inside her mind. She reached for the drive in her jacket pocket. It felt heavier than it had on the ground, charged with a weight she couldn't yet quantify. "Listen carefully," the voice continued. "You have one chance to survive this night. Go through the files on that drive. There's information they cannot allow to exist, and it's already enough to get you killed." Emily swallowed, cold terror gnawing at her chest. "Files," she whispered. What is on them?" "Proof," the voice said. "Proof that Harrington didn't just fire you, he tried to erase you. And the general was the target of an operation sanctioned from the very top. Everything you think you knew about Ravenwood is a lie." Her mind reeled. Harrington's wrath, the ambush, the relentless pursuit, everything aligned into a single, horrifying possibility. The general had been marked for assassination, and she had stumbled directly into the center of it. Emily pressed the drive into the medic's hands, trembling. I need to see this. Now." The medic, young, efficient, but wary, hesitated. "This isn't just data. You need to be careful. Whoever set this in motion, they'll kill for it." Emily nodded, tears mixing with rainwater, adrenaline, and fear. "I know. I can't wait. I have to know." The helicopter tilted slightly, tossing them against the floor as the storm's wind shrieked. Emily pressed herself down, stomach knotting, fingers gripping the drive like a lifeline. She slid the files into the onboard laptop, and encryption challenged her immediately. Military grade, locked with codes she barely had access to, yet she was Ravenwood's top analyst for a reason. Minutes passed. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She decrypted layer after layer, heart hammering with every file revealed. Reports, satellite images, memos, and field logs. Her pulse leapt as she stumbled on a document marked Operation Sentinel Ash, Target, Camden. Her stomach dropped. The general had not been ambushed by accident. He had been deliberately targeted. And Harrington. Emily gasped aloud. The next file revealed a signed order stamped with Harrington's seal. "Termination Protocol, Camden," it read. Emily's mind reeled. Harrington had ordered the general's death. She had saved a life he had tried to take. Her hands trembled, dropping the drive slightly before catching it again. She glanced at the medic, whose eyes widened at the severity of her reaction. They tried to kill him," Emily whispered. He was supposed to die, wasn't he?" The voice on the radio, steady, controlled, calm, cut through her panic. "Yes, and by saving him you made yourself the most dangerous person in the building. And outside it, everyone who wants to keep Sentinel Ash secret, they now want you dead too." Emily pressed her head into her hands. Everything she had trusted, protocols, orders, procedures, was a lie. Every instruction from Harrington, every limit placed on her authority, every dismissal she had taken for granted, it had been part of a plan she didn't understand. She scanned through the next folder, drone footage, the ambush. But this time she saw something she hadn't noticed before: markers, precision, coordination. Friendly units supposedly protecting Camden had been firing at him. At the very moment she had rescued him, the drone had captured the betrayal. Her jaw tightened. She had saved a man from his own people, and now she was their next target. A sudden jolt hit the helicopter, tossing her sideways. Gunfire cracked below. Emily froze, stomach dropping. The SUVs had arrived at the extraction zone. Men climbed toward the building, rifles raised, shooting at the helicopter. The rotors whipped violently, spinning wind and rain like knives. Emily scrambled to the open door, looking down at the chaos below. The storm, the pursuit, the betrayal. It all converged into one moment of absolute clarity. If she didn't act, she and the drive would be history. The calm, authoritative voice returned over comms. "Emily, listen. There's only one way. You must trust Lieutenant Commander Blake Hale. He is your only chance to survive." Emily's pulse jumped. Hale, the name sounded familiar. She had never met him, never seen him in the field, yet the weight of the recommendation, the authority behind Camden's trust, was enough to compel her. "Where is he?" she demanded, voice sharp against the storm. "On the roof. He's covering your extraction. Follow the rope, trust him." Emily's heart raced as the helicopter dipped slightly, blades slicing the rain. She glanced out at the rooftop, the SUVs swarming below like sharks circling a wounded prey. And there, emerging from the shadows, was a figure tall, broad-shouldered, moving with purpose, calm and deliberate amidst chaos. Lieutenant Commander Blake Hale. Emily swallowed, mind racing. Everything had led to this moment. The drive, the ambush, Harrington's betrayal, the storm, the unknown forces hunting her. She stepped toward the rope ladder, gripping it tightly. Every muscle screamed from exhaustion, but fear sharpened her focus. She paused for a heartbeat, rain plastering her hair to her face, heart hammering. One step, then another. The ladder swayed violently, rotors chopping the wind. Hale's hand reached down, steady, controlled, guiding her. "Emily Rourke," he said over the roar. "Hold on tight. The night is far from over, and whatever happens next, you'll need to trust me completely." Her mind reeled. Could she trust anyone at this point? Harrington had betrayed her. The general had almost been killed by his own people. And now Hale, a complete stranger. But instinct screamed that the man on the roof was the only thing between her and death. Emily climbed higher, hand gripping Hale, as he pulled her into the helicopter. Rotors thrashed rain into her face. The wind howled around her, and below, the SUVs had stopped, momentarily stunned by the unexpected aerial extraction. As she collapsed into the cabin, water-soaked, shaking, Hale's gaze met hers, steady, unflinching, authoritative. "You have the drive?" he asked. Emily nodded, fumbling with the small device. "Yes, it's everything." Hale's eyes narrowed. "Then you're in more danger than you realize, and there's no turning back now." Emily's stomach knotted, mind racing with a single, horrifying realization. She had survived the storm, the ambush, and the pursuit. But the storm she had just entered was far larger than any weather pattern, any battle, or any betrayal she had faced before. And with the drive in her hands, the secrets she now carried, and Lieutenant Commander Hale guiding her through the night, Emily understood one chilling truth. Her life, and the truth about Ravenwood, was about to explode. The helicopter rose above the storm, slicing through darkness, carrying her into a future she had never imagined, one where every ally could be a traitor and every shadow could hold death. Emily Rourke, analyst turned fugitive, gripped the drive tighter, her mind racing. Whatever came next, she would face it head-on. And in that moment, as the storm below raged and the city lights flickered beneath them, Emily realized the night had only just begun. The helicopter shook violently as it sliced through the storm, Emily clinging to the seat with white-knuckled hands. Rain and wind hammered the fuselage, drumming like a relentless percussion on her nerves. She kept her eyes fixed on the drive clutched tightly in her hand. It was small, unassuming, but she knew it held more than data. It held a revelation that could topple empires, expose betrayals, and mark her for death. Lieutenant Commander Blake Hale sat across from her, calm and precise, eyes scanning the storm-slashed skyline. His presence exuded authority, and Emily found herself instinctively trusting him, even though she knew she had no reason yet. "Emily," Hale said over the roar of the rotors, "once we land, you need to go through everything on that drive. It's going to change everything you thought you knew about Ravenwood." Her pulse spiked. "Change how?" Hale's gaze was steady, unwavering. "It's bigger than Harrington, bigger than the ambush. The general wasn't just a target, he was the key to a plan so deep, so entrenched, that people inside the government would kill to keep it secret. And now, they want you dead because you hold proof. Emily swallowed hard, heart hammering. The weight of his words settled like stone in her stomach. She thought of Harrington's fury, the coordinated ambush, the relentless SUV pursuit, every piece now aligned in a terrifying puzzle. The helicopter banked sharply, narrowly avoiding a spire of steel from a high-rise. Emily gripped the seat as the rotors screamed overhead. Hale's calmness seemed unnatural, almost mechanical, yet comforting in a way that made her tense muscles ease slightly. "We're landing at a secure Navy facility," Hale continued. "You'll have temporary safety there, but this isn't a sanctuary. This is a staging point. You decrypt, you learn, you act. They won't stop chasing you. Ever." Emily nodded, her mind racing. Every instinct screamed danger. Every analytic thought fired like a machine gun in her head. She had always followed data, orders, logic, but tonight all of it had crumbled. She had saved a general, defied authority, and now her life depended on trust in a stranger in the middle of a hurricane. The helicopter descended toward a secluded landing zone surrounded by water and reinforced gates. Spotlights cut through the storm like searchlights, painting the dark scene in stark white. The rotors kicked up rain, creating a frothy mist over the tarmac. As they touched down, Hale helped Emily from the helicopter. Water poured from her clothes, soaking her boots and hair, but her grip on the drive never wavered. The medics aboard had vanished into the storm as quickly as they had appeared, leaving her and Hale in the pouring rain. "Inside," Hale said, leading her to a large, reinforced hangar. Inside, the storm was muted to a dull roar against the metal walls. The facility hummed with electricity, servers blinking, computers whirring. Navy personnel moved with efficiency, scanning her, nodding respectfully to Hale, and then continuing their work. Emily sat at a sleek metal desk, the drive plugged into a secure laptop. Hale stood beside her, arms crossed, calm as ever. "Go through it, take it all in." Emily's hands trembled slightly as she decrypted the first file. What appeared initially as operational reports quickly revealed layers upon layers of surveillance, internal communications, and covert operations. Her eyes widened at the first set of images. Satellite feeds showing the ambush before it even happened, locations pinpointed with terrifying precision. Her breath caught. "They planned this," she whispered, voice shaking. "Every step, every vehicle, every soldier, it was orchestrated." "Yes," Hale confirmed quietly, "and not just the ambush. They were trying to rewrite history, and now you are the only one who can prove it." Emily's fingers flew across the keyboard, decrypting more files. The deeper she went, the more horrifying the picture became. High-ranking officials, rogue operatives, and agents within Ravenwood itself had conspired to eliminate General Camden. And the reasons went beyond politics. They were personal, deadly, and hidden beneath layers of national security secrecy. A video file popped up, labeled Camden Extraction Analysis. Emily hesitated. Her hands shook as she clicked play. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. The Humvee, the ambush, the moment she had jumped into the wreckage. But what she hadn't realized before was captured in horrifying clarity. Hidden cameras, positioned strategically on surrounding rooftops, monitored her every move. She hadn't just saved Camden. She had done so in front of the entire Operation Surveillance Network. Hale's voice cut softly through her shock. "They've been watching you since you stepped onto that tarmac. Every move, every decision. And now, you have what they never wanted anyone to see." Emily's stomach dropped. The drive wasn't just proof. It was evidence of her courage, her defiance, and now a trigger for lethal retaliation. She realized Harrington hadn't just fired her because she disobeyed orders. He had fired her because she had the potential to expose him. And if she survived tonight, that exposure would change everything. Another file flickered to life. This one contained correspondence between high-ranking officials discussing Operation Sentinel Ash. Emily read quickly, each line sending shivers down her spine. Plans to manipulate military resources, eliminate threats to a covert operation, and most chilling, orders to eliminate Camden if he refused to comply. Her mind raced. This is bigger than I thought, she whispered. Hale's eyes never left her. It's always been bigger, and now they know you have it, they won't stop. The chase isn't over, not tonight, not ever. Emily leaned back, exhausted, but adrenaline surged through her veins. Every cell in her body screamed urgency. She had to act, had to understand, had to survive. Her life was no longer her own. It was entangled with a secret so explosive it could bring down the agency that had fired her, the general she saved, and the very people who had chased her through the storm. A sudden beep on the laptop startled her. An incoming encrypted message. She hesitated, but Hale's steady hand on her shoulder urged her forward. She decrypted it carefully. The message was short, stark, and terrifying. They're closer than you think. Move fast. The storm is not your only danger. Emily's pulse jumped. The storm outside the hangar seemed insignificant compared to the danger closing in around her. She realized that every second she spent here was a second closer to being discovered, captured, or worse. Hale's voice was calm, authoritative. We need to get you out of here before they find you. But first, you need to know the truth. Camden isn't just a general. He's a key witness, and you are now part of his protection detail by circumstance. Emily's mind raced. Protection? Me? I'm an analyst. I don't even carry a weapon. You have the drive, Hale said. And right now, that makes you more dangerous than any trained operative in the field. Emily swallowed hard. Her hands shook slightly as she gripped the laptop, absorbing the weight of what she had just learned. Her career, her life, her very identity had been ripped from her control, thrust into a chaos she had never imagined. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a fire ignited. Emily Rourke had survived ambushes, storms, betrayals. She had saved a general from death. And now, with the drive in her hands, knowledge burning in her mind, and Hale guiding her, she knew one thing: she was not finished. Not by Harrington, not by the storm, not by anyone. The rain battered the hangar, lightning flickered across the darkened windows, and Emily realized that this was just the beginning. The chase had only grown deadlier, and the secrets in her hands were the spark that could ignite a storm larger than any she had faced. Hale turned toward her, voice low but firm. Emily, you need to be ready. They know you're here, and the next move they make could be the last one you survive. Emily's gaze hardened. The drive pulsed in her hand like a heartbeat, a beacon of truth in a night consumed by lies. She nodded once sharply. Then let them come, she whispered, because I'm not running anymore. The storm raged outside, but inside the hangar a new storm was forming, one of secrets, betrayals, and the deadly game Emily had just stepped into. And as lightning split the sky, illuminating her determined expression, she realized the truth. Nothing would ever be the same. The storm outside wasn't over, and neither was the chase. The hangar was quiet except for the hum of servers and the relentless pounding of rain against the metal roof. Emily Rourke sat at the desk, the drive open in front of her, files flickering on the laptop screen. Every piece of information she decrypted pulled her deeper into a web of betrayal, conspiracy, and death. Each revelation made her pulse hammer faster, each secret burned hotter in her mind. Lieutenant Commander Blake Hale leaned against the edge of the desk, his eyes scanning the room with a predator's precision. They know you're here, he said, his voice low but steady. We've underestimated the speed of their tracking. They've been monitoring every communications channel, every traffic route, every security feed. Emily swallowed hard. They can't just be following me, can they? They've got to be everywhere. Hale's gaze didn't waver. They're closer than you think. They've infiltrated more layers of Ravenwood than anyone imagined. Harrington isn't just a rogue director. He's a symptom of something bigger. Emily's fingers flew over the keyboard, decrypting layer after layer of files. Every document, every image, every log told a story of meticulous planning, ruthless ambition, and lethal precision. She realized the ambush had been just the first move in a calculated game. Camden's life was the pivot, but now her survival and the drive had become the next critical factor. The screen lit up with a live feed, a surveillance camera inside the hangar previously unnoticed. Emily's stomach dropped. Through the rain-blurred lens, she could see shadowy figures moving outside, rifling through crates, scanning the perimeter. The storm had masked their approach, but they were here, closer than she had imagined. "They're inside," Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. Hale's jaw tightened. "We expected they'd be fast. We need to move now." Emily grabbed the drive, laptop, and a small tactical bag Hale had tossed her. Weapons, comms, and a few essential tools were inside, making her feel heavier and more alive at the same time. She had never carried more than her analytical skills before, but tonight, everything was different. They moved toward a side exit, navigating the hangar's maze of crates and server racks. Hale held the door open, scanning the darkness outside. The wind and rain had masked their footsteps, but Emily knew it wouldn't last long. Whoever had sent the SUVs before had the same level of precision now, and they would be relentless. As they stepped outside, lightning illuminated the yard, revealing a nightmare. 3 black SUVs waiting, engines running, doors open. Shadows moved quickly, tactical gear gleaming faintly in the intermittent light. "They know we're here," Emily said, heart pounding. "Yes," Hale replied, calm but urgent. "And they won't hesitate. Keep close, stay low, move fast." The rain lashed against them as they sprinted toward a series of shipping containers, using them as cover. The sound of gunfire erupted behind them, sharp and deafening. One of the bullets ricocheted off a metal container just inches from Emily's head. Her breath caught, adrenaline spiking. "Keep moving," Hale shouted, pulling her behind a container. His hand was firm on her back, guiding her, steadying her. Emily realized that despite the chaos, despite the storm, he radiated control and competence, everything she lacked in the moment but desperately needed. Emily glanced at the drive. Every second mattered. Every movement, every choice could mean life or death. She had decrypted enough to understand one chilling truth. This wasn't just an assassination attempt on Camden. It was a systematic effort to silence anyone who could expose the truth, and she was now the highest priority target. Another flash of lightning revealed more figures, scaling the containers, moving with lethal efficiency. Emily's stomach twisted. They were trained, ruthless, and entirely focused on eliminating her. Hale assessed the situation, eyes sharp. "We're going to the extraction point. You follow me. Don't hesitate, don't question, just move." They ran through the maze of containers, bullets pinging off metal near them. Emily's lungs burned, muscles screamed, but she kept pace, driven by fear and determination. Every step brought her closer to survival, but the danger escalated with each heartbeat. A sudden shout cut through the storm. "There, on the rooftop!" Emily's heart leapt. The attackers had spotted them. Gunfire tore through the air, sparks flying as rounds hit metal containers. Hale shoved her behind a stack of crates, firing back with precise, controlled bursts. Emily's mind raced. She had never held a weapon before, never fired one, never faced life-and-death combat firsthand. And yet, adrenaline sharpened her senses. She felt alive in a way she had never known. The attackers advanced methodically, coordinating their movements, trying to box them in. Emily realized with sickening clarity that this wasn't just an attack, it was a hunt, a carefully orchestrated effort to track, isolate, and eliminate her. "Emily," Hale shouted, "now!" He grabbed her arm and dragged her toward a narrow corridor between containers. The storm's wind funneled through the alley, masking their movement just enough to escape the line of fire. Her heart raced, lungs burning, but she pressed on. Every instinct screamed for survival. They reached a makeshift platform leading to a fire escape. Hale threw a grappling hook over the edge of a rooftop. Emily glanced down. The drop was steep, and the SUVs were circling, cutting off escape. Her stomach twisted, but Hale's grip was steady, guiding her. "On three," he said. "1, 2, 3." They swung onto the rooftop, narrowly avoiding the storm and gunfire. Emily's boots hit the metal surface, rain soaking through to her skin. Lightning illuminated the night, revealing a cityscape below and the chaos that trailed them. Hale led her across the rooftop, eyes scanning constantly. "We're not safe yet," he warned. "Extraction isn't far, but they're relentless. You have the drive, Emily, and that makes you the most dangerous person alive to them." Emily's pulse raced as she clutched the drive. Her mind whirled. Harrington's betrayal, Camden's near death, the storm, the chase. Everything had led to this moment, and yet she felt a strange clarity amidst the chaos. She had survived impossible odds. She had outmaneuvered trained operatives, and now, with Hale guiding her, she had a chance. Lightning split the sky, revealing the extraction point, a small Navy landing zone on the next rooftop, partially shielded from the storm. A faint whirring in the distance confirmed it. The helicopter was returning. Emily's heart leapt. Relief was tempered by terror. The attackers were still out there, still hunting. Every second mattered. Hale crouched beside her. "Once we reach the helicopter, you're not just a passenger. You're the key to exposing this operation. You need to be ready for anything." Emily nodded, gripping the drive tighter. The weight of it was a physical and emotional anchor, proof, evidence, and a target on her back. They sprinted the final stretch, bullets splintering metal near them. Hale grabbed her, pulling her onto the helicopter's landing platform just as gunfire erupted around them. Emily's breath caught. She felt the rotor wash, the spray of rain, the chaos below, and yet she was alive. As they lifted off, Emily looked down at the stormy city below, realization dawning. She had survived ambushes, betrayal, and pursuit, but the true danger was just beginning. The drive in her hands contained the proof of everything: Harrington's plan, the attempt on Camden's life, and now her own involvement in the conspiracy. Hale's voice cut through the roar of the rotors. "Emily, you've made it this far, but the storm isn't over, and the next move they make will be deadlier than anything you've faced." Emily's stomach tightened. She nodded, pulse racing, adrenaline still pumping. Her life had been turned upside down in a single night, but she was no longer just an analyst. She was a survivor, a fugitive, and the key to exposing one of the deadliest conspiracies in recent history. The helicopter soared into the storm, carrying them into the unknown. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she held the drive close. Lightning flickered outside, illuminating her determined expression. She realized one undeniable truth. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm she had just entered, and there was no turning back. Below, the city disappeared into rain and shadow. Emily Rourke, analyst turned fugitive, gripped the drive tighter, ready for the fight that lay ahead. And somewhere in the storm, the forces hunting her were already regrouping, plotting their next move. Emily exhaled, setting her jaw. Whatever came next, she was ready. The helicopter sliced through the storm like a blade, rain pelting against the windshield in violent sheets. Inside, Emily clutched the drive as if it were the only thing keeping her tethered to reality. Her knuckles were white, muscles tense, heart hammering like a war drum. She had survived ambushes, betrayal, and the storm itself, but Hale's words rang constantly in her mind. The storm isn't over. The next move they make will be deadlier than anything you've faced. Emily swallowed hard. The drive was more than evidence. It was a target. Harrington had made her survival an impossibility, but this drive, with its proofs and secrets, had turned her into a lightning rod for everyone who wanted to bury the truth. And she knew now that Harrington wouldn't hesitate to use every resource at his disposal to get it back. Hale, seated across from her, scanned the skis with a trained eye, comms crackling softly in his earpiece. He was calm, collected, almost unnervingly so, yet the subtle tension in his jaw betrayed the storm inside. "They've already mobilized additional operatives," he said quietly, voice steady. "You're the one thing they cannot let reach the general or the authorities. They've deployed teams specifically to intercept us." Emily's pulse spiked. "How do you know that?" "Because," Hale said, his eyes narrowing, "we've been anticipating every move Harrington and his insiders could make, but even we underestimated the speed. They move like ghosts, silent, coordinated, lethal." A flicker on the radar screen caught Emily's eye. Red blips converged on their position, tracking the helicopter's path. "They're close," she said, trying to steady her voice. "They're closer than you think," Hale confirmed, voice taut. "And they're going to try something drastic, maybe even boarding the helicopter mid-flight. They're desperate." Emily's stomach dropped. Desperation made killers reckless, and reckless killers were the deadliest kind. She realized then that nothing about her life had prepared her for this. Her years as an analyst, the long hours behind a desk, the meticulous calculations, they were irrelevant now. This was survival, pure and immediate. Lightning split the sky outside, illuminating the dark clouds like a battlefield. Emily pressed herself against the seat, gripping the drive as though it contained the sum total of her life. Every instinct screamed, "Trust no one but Hale." She didn't know him, had never met him before tonight, but he was the only anchor in a night gone mad. The storm worsened, wind thrashing the helicopter violently. Emily's stomach lurched with every tilt, the rotors slicing the air with a deafening roar. Then, from the darkness, another helicopter emerged, black, unmarked, its silhouette a phantom against the lightning-laden sky. "They're here," Hale muttered, tightening his grip on the controls. Emily's heart pounded. She could see shadowy figures in the open door of the approaching craft, harnessed, weapons drawn. Harrington's operatives. Deadly, trained, relentless. They were coming for the drive. They were coming for her. Hale's voice was calm but commanding. "Brace yourself. They will try to board us." Emily's stomach dropped as the first rope shot down from the enemy helicopter. Soldiers descended with mechanical precision, weapons trained. Bullets tore through the air, ricocheting off the helicopter's exterior, sparks flying. Hale banked sharply, evading, but the storm's fury made every maneuver a battle against physics itself. Emily ducked, pressing the drive against her chest. Her mind raced. Every scenario she had ever imagined, every contingency plan collapsed into chaos. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her head, a tempest of fear, adrenaline, and resolve. Hale fired back with precise bursts from a mounted weapon, each shot keeping the boarding team at bay. "Emily," he shouted over the roar of rotors and gunfire, "get to the rear exit, cover me." Emily scrambled, heart hammering, as Hale held the line. Rain whipped against her face, wind tearing at her soaked clothes. She reached the rear door and hesitated. One slip, one misstep, and she would plummet into the stormy abyss below. She steeled herself and jumped, grappling onto the rope ladder trailing behind them. The helicopter lurched violently, bullets striking metal near her hands. Emily's fingers slipped once, twice, but she held on, heart pounding, muscles burning. Hale's voice cut through the storm. "You're almost there, keep going." She climbed desperately, adrenaline sharpening every movement. Lightning illuminated the boarding enemy's faces for a brief instant, cold, professional, merciless. Emily swallowed her fear. She couldn't afford panic, not now, not ever. Finally, she reached the rooftop of an abandoned warehouse, drenched, shaking, but alive. Hale followed shortly after, landing beside her. The storm's wind tore at their clothing, rain blinding them, but they pressed forward, scanning for threats. "Are you okay?" Hale asked, voice low but steady. Emily nodded, though her body trembled. I think so, but they won't stop." "They won't," Hale said, eyes narrowing. "And that's why we need to move fast. The next location is safer, but only marginally. Harrington has operatives everywhere. You are the key to exposing him, and they know it." Emily's stomach twisted as she realized the truth. She had survived ambushes, storms, and relentless pursuit, but the fight was far from over. Every move, every decision could bring death or revelation. She had the drive. That made her a weapon, a target, and a key to a truth that some would kill to bury. Lightning flashed again, illuminating a cityscape below, and Emily caught a glimpse of the chaos she had left behind. SUVs scattered, operatives searching, the storm washing over everything. And yet, here she was, alive, clutching the drive that held the power to destroy careers, lives, and reputations. Hale motioned her forward. "We need to reach the safe house. You'll be secure there long enough to analyze the drive and understand what we're dealing with. But remember, Harrington will not wait. He'll strike when you least expect it." Emily followed, heart pounding, drenched, adrenaline still surging. Each step was a testament to survival, each breath a defiance against the storm and the operatives hunting her. Inside the relative shelter of the abandoned warehouse, Hale secured the perimeter. Emily dropped to her knees, pulling the drive closer. Her mind whirled with the revelations. Harrington's betrayal, Camden's near death, the ambush, the operatives, the storm. Everything converged into a single, terrifying truth. She was in the middle of a conspiracy that stretched far beyond her imagination, and her survival had made her the most dangerous person in the room. Hale's voice was calm but firm. "We have a brief window. You decrypt, understand, and act. Harrington's network is vast, and he will not hesitate to eliminate anyone in his way, including you." Emily swallowed hard. Her hands shook, but she opened the drive again. The files flickered across the laptop screen, each folder a doorway into the hidden world Harrington had built, layers of corruption, covert operations, and deadly betrayal. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the dark corners of the warehouse. Emily's eyes widened as she uncovered one particularly damning file, a recording of Harrington himself, discussing Operation Sentinel Ash, the elimination of Camden, and the directive to neutralize anyone who knew the truth, including her. Her stomach twisted. He's coming for me," she whispered, voice barely audible over the storm. Hale's eyes met hers, unwavering. "Yes, and the sooner we move, the better your chances. You hold the key to exposing him, but he will not stop until he gets it back, and until then he is hunting you." Emily pressed her hand to the drive, feeling the weight of the evidence, the danger, and the responsibility. She realized that every step, every decision from this moment on, would determine not only her life, but the future of those she had risked everything to save. The storm outside continued to rage, but inside the warehouse, Emily felt something stronger, a resolve hardening, determination solidifying. She would not run, she would not hide, and she would not fail. Because the storm was nothing compared to what was coming. And Harrington's shadows were already closing in. Emily Rourke's hands shook as she clutched the drive, the weight of its contents pressing on her like a living thing. Harrington's betrayal, the ambush, the relentless pursuit, it all had led to this rooftop, a storm-lashed precipice above the city. She and Lieutenant Commander Blake Hale had fought through relentless enemies, lightning, and rain to get here, but the drive made them targets that even the Navy couldn't fully shield. Hale scanned the rooftop, eyes sharp, calculating. "They'll be here any second. Stay close, keep low, don't hesitate." Emily nodded, drenched, teeth chattering, adrenaline still coursing through every vein. Every shadow could be a sniper. Every gust of wind could throw them off balance. She had survived ambushes, a storm, and a chase across the city. But now she realized Harrington's reach had no bounds. He had orchestrated the attempt on General Camden's life, tried to erase her from existence, and now he was here, orchestrating one final move. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the enemy, men in tactical gear climbing toward them from surrounding rooftops. They moved like shadows, silent but deadly, every step precise, every movement calculated. Emily's stomach dropped. She realized that this wasn't just a chase, it was a hunt designed to leave no witnesses. Hale fired first, precise bursts keeping the operatives pinned behind metal crates and air vents. "Emily, the extraction's almost here," he shouted over the storm. Emily's heart leapt. She scanned the skis, and in the distance, the thrum of a helicopter rose above the rain and chaos. Navy markings, spotlights cutting through the storm, it was their ride out. But the enemy was closing fast. "They're coming for you," one operative shouted from the opposite rooftop, voice harsh over the wind. Emily realized with a sinking clarity. Harrington had dispatched his best for this rooftop encounter. If they were caught here, there would be no escape. Emily's hands trembled as she held the drive, feeling its significance like a live wire in her grip. Hale motioned her toward a steel ladder leading to a higher rooftop, closer to the helicopter's landing point. Every step was a gamble. Below, shadows moved. Harrington's operatives were flanking, trying to cut off escape. "Go," Hale shouted, firing again, forcing the attackers to pause. Emily scrambled up the ladder, muscles burning, lungs heaving. The wind howled like a living thing, threatening to rip her from the ladder. She reached the upper rooftop just as Hale joined her, pulling her behind a low wall for cover. Lightning illuminated the rooftop, revealing the helicopter descending, rotors thrashing the storm into a frenzy. Spotlights hit the deck, glinting off wet metal. Safety was close, but so was danger. Emily's heart pounded. She realized that this rooftop would either be her salvation or her tomb. Harrington's operatives were closing in, weapons trained, faces set with lethal precision. She swallowed fear, focusing on the helicopter, their lifeline. Hale handed her a compact sidearm already loaded. "You're not just a passenger anymore. You'll need to defend yourself if they reach this point. Aim for the threat closest to you. Don't hesitate." Emily nodded, hands trembling slightly but resolved. The storm had stripped away her hesitation, fear melting into determination. She aimed, fired once, then twice. A man crumpled, another ducked behind cover. Her heart raced, adrenaline surging, every movement razor-sharp. She was no longer just an analyst, she was survival incarnate. The helicopter's rope ladder dropped. "Go, get on the ladder," Hale shouted. Emily lunged, gripping the rope with soaking wet hands, muscles screaming as she climbed. Behind her, gunfire erupted, bullets pinging dangerously close. Hale followed, holding off the attackers with precise fire covering her every move. Halfway up, Emily felt a firm hand grab hers, pulling her higher. She stumbled, but Hale steadied her, muscles straining. Rain poured into her eyes, blinding, but she didn't falter. She couldn't. Not now, not ever. A flash of movement below caught her eye, an operative climbing the ladder behind them, relentless. Emily's stomach dropped. Hale fired a single shot, precise, and the threat disappeared. She swallowed, trembling, but kept climbing. Finally, she pulled herself into the cabin, gasping for breath, drenched, exhausted, but alive. Hale followed moments later, shutting the door behind them as the helicopter rose into the stormy night. Emily sank to the floor, chest heaving, hands still clutching the drive. The rotor wash flung rain and wind into the cabin, but inside, the storm had quieted enough for her to breathe. For a moment, silence enveloped them, a fragile pause in a night of chaos. Hale sat across from her, eyes scanning the horizon. "You did well," he said quietly. "Far better than most in your position would have, but this isn't over. Harrington will stop at nothing." Emily's mind raced. The drive contained the truth, proof of Harrington's assassination attempts, covert operations, and betrayal. She realized the gravity of what she held, evidence that could topple a career, a command structure, even a government narrative. And now she had survived every attempt to silence her. The helicopter cut through the storm, engines roaring, and Emily pressed her hand to the drive. Her resolve hardened. Harrington had underestimated her courage, and underestimated her determination. She wouldn't run, she wouldn't hide, and she wouldn't allow him to erase the truth. Lightning illuminated the dark clouds once more, and Emily realized something else. She was no longer alone. Hale had proven to be a steadfast ally, a guardian, and a tactical mind she could trust. Together, they had survived ambushes, storms, and betrayal. And now, with the helicopter carrying them away from the immediate danger, she knew their fight was far from over. But they had a chance. Emily leaned back, eyes fixed on the storm outside, and whispered almost to herself, "They thought they could erase me. They thought they could silence the truth. They were wrong." Hale's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. "The fight isn't over, but you've made it this far, and with what you carry we can end this." Emily exhaled, the weight of the drive in her hand anchoring her amidst the chaos. She realized the truth of her situation. Survival was no longer just about her life. It was about justice, exposure, and the future of every secret Harrington had tried to bury. The helicopter climbed above the storm, city lights flickering below. Emily, drenched, exhausted but resolute, clutched the drive tightly. Harrington's reach was long, his operatives relentless, but she had survived every ambush, every storm, and every betrayal. And now, for the first time, she had a path to strike back, to reveal the truth, and to ensure that the man who had tried to erase lives, including hers, would pay for his crimes. Lightning split the sky, illuminating her determined face. She was no longer an analyst. She was a survivor, a fighter, and the keeper of the truth. And somewhere below, in the storm-darkened city, Harrington realized that for all his power, all his plans, and all his operatives, he had underestimated Emily Rourke. The storm outside raged, but inside the helicopter a new resolve was born. Emily exhaled, finally feeling the adrenaline give way to clarity. The chase had ended, but the war, the fight for truth, was only beginning. And as the Navy helicopter carried them away into the safety of the night, Emily understood the full gravity of what she now held. Harrington could strike again, the operatives could regroup, but she would always have the one thing that mattered, the truth. And truth, Emily realized, was more powerful than any storm.